Our generative topic is designing a community garden. Through the activities incorporated in this unit, we unite the subject areas of biology, math, and social sciences to have 9th and 10th grade biology students plan for building a garden. In the process of designing a community garden, students will learn to make decisions that balance the needs of the community with individual needs and various constraints, which necessitates a way of thinking that will be transferable to other contexts. In making decisions about the garden, students will have to think about biological and community needs and resources to determine which plants, soils, and fertilizers to use. They will focus on creating a balance within the ecosystem between the needs of plants and animals and the constraints of their environment and community. Creating this balance utilizes the social sciences in researching and addressing community needs, and biology in understanding plants' biological needs and resources. Students will also apply numerical thinking by analyzing data and manipulating variables such as number and type of plants. This generative topic will inherently elicit many inquiry questions that tie the three areas of study together. Students may ask questions that bridge biology, math, and social sciences, such as, given a limited budget, how do I buy all of the plants and resources that the community wants or needs? How do we analyze the data that we've collected from the community? How do we measure the needs of the community? How can the plants that the community members want and need grow in the same space? What data should I collect to understand my community's and environment's needs and resources? How should I go about collecting this data? Decision-making and the ability to consider options and variables are necessary for all parts of life and work, not just gardening. The skills and knowledge that students obtain through this project are transferable. Students can apply this ability to balance various needs in a variety of situations, whether it be at home, with family, in other courses, or in their work.
Our first performance of understanding is an introductory performance in which students will research and analyze the community's needs and resources. To help with their decision-making about the community garden, students will conduct research, surveys, and in-person interviews with various community members to investigate community needs, similar garden projects, and city limitations. Students will use Google Forms to design and conduct their surveys. Google Forms allows students to reach many community members very quickly. These surveys can be easily collaborated on and adapted, and the results can be easily exported to Google Sheets for analysis. Students will be given constraints on their gardens, such as a budget, garden surface area, and a selection of plants and soils to choose from. Once they've collected their community data, students will generate a list of criteria that they would like to use in making their decisions. They will then use Google Sheets to evaluate each factor's influence on their garden design decisions. Within a provided template, pre-populated with a decision-making formula, learners will manipulate values, such as the priority of a given criterion, to gain an understanding of how variables can impact a formula outcome. Ultimately, the students will be manipulating values in the spreadsheet to help understand how different priorities impact their decisions. Google Sheets allows students to not only instantly see the impact of a changed variable on a formula result, but also to share that information with their classmates in the live sheet. Through this method, students can provide immediate feedback to their peers. Students may find certain parts of this performance challenging. We have identified 3 potentially challenging areas and the support that a teacher can provide for each area. First, students may need support when interacting with community members. A teacher can guide students to create effective meeting agendas so that students are more prepared when entering meetings. Teachers can also provide students with tips on effective interviewing and communication skills. Second, students may not be practiced in obtaining meaning from their qualitative survey results. A teacher may support students by providing a lesson on identifying useful data, accounting for bias in surveys, and coding qualitative data. Finally, Students may need guidance in understanding how the data they input into their Google Sheet impacts the formula results. A teacher can provide support by revealing the algorithm behind the formula and identifying the cells it links in order to break it down into its various components.
Students will create a visual representation of their planned garden, including plans for supplies and budget, design and location, goals for the garden, and why these are their goals. In this activity, students will form small groups to make and justify their decisions about location, purposes, design, and contents of the garden that will serve individual and community needs. This activity will require students to apply what they've learned about the community in the first activity, but they will have to come up with solutions as a team. After assessing the community needs and constraints, students will be able to make an educated plan that targets the community needs, fits within the constraints, and is feasible based on other gardens that people have created. Students will model their proposed garden designs within the 3D model tool SketchUp. SketchUp is a 3D space, which makes it easier to trial things such as measurement and drawn to scale. Through this tool, students will be able to ensure their resources fit the specified surface area constraints and try out different plant and soil options to see how they look and fit together. Students will also keep a log of the cost of the resources that they use in their model to confirm that the model fits the given budget. The most important task of this performance is the defense. Students will share their models with the class and defend how their decisions about the garden meet individual and community needs and space, time, and financial constraints. They will refer to the Google Sheet and qualitative data from their introductory performance as the basis for these decisions. One challenge we anticipate students may have is coming to a consensus among group members. To support this, the teacher may provide a team-building activity prior to the guided inquiry performance. Another challenge we foresee is building a strong defense of their design. To support students in this challenge, the teacher can guide students through lessons on argumentation and making claims based on evidence. For our guided inquiry performance of understanding, we've provided a rubric to gauge learners' ability to make decisions based on data, consider multiple perspectives and options, articulate their thinking around the decisions they made, and self-reflect. This rubric clearly recognizes the different points at which students may be in their understanding of the decision-making process.
Just like other assessments, there are some pros and cons. So as for our assessment, the pros are that it helps students understand how to be convincing members of a community. It motivates understanding ideas from different perspectives, so it promotes empathetic learning. It allows room for creativity in how the argument is presented. And some of the cons are that it does not emphasize the way the argument is presented, and it may be difficult for some students who are not as comfortable with public speaking. In order to address these cons, a teacher could combine oral argumentation or written assessment in which students walk the class through their decision-making process. This will also give space to discuss alternatives and why they are rejected. Teachers could give students alternative scenarios for which they will have to transfer their decision-making skills to different contexts. For example, a teacher might ask a question such as, how would you make decisions about whether or not to eliminate selling plastic water bottles in your school cafeteria? This type of assessment might be more suitable as of an end-of-unit assessment. One key idea that students will reflect on is the role that community plays in decision-making process about the garden. To reflect on their experiences and generate deeper understandings, we will ask students to reflect on what-if questions that require students to engage their imagination and apply what they've learned in different contexts. For example, we might ask students, how would your garden look different if we lived in a rural community? How would you build a garden if you didn't have the support of a community? How would you change your design if a member of the community suddenly halved your budget? Which decisions from your initial design would you reconsider and why? Students will also engage in meaningful reflection during a start, stop, continue activity. By discussing in a collaborative, safe space what students thought did not work well, what did work well, and what they wish to do during future projects, students will gain a deeper understanding of how the community impacted their decision-making process when designing the garden. This reflection activity will develop learning understanding by providing students with an opportunity to learn from their peers in addition to the community members who they spoke with. This format of discussion promotes idea sharing and iterating on ideas by focusing on specific elements of their decision making and design projects that were or were not successful, allowing students grow their skills and apply them in new situations.